Hello there, folks. So, this is Ken with Model Building and Retirement Channel. I'm trying something new. I'm always trying something new. So I'm just doing a raw live stream of me trying to build a kit. I did this last night too. I was modifying my wheel wells on this because I got these big aftermarket wheels that needed to fit into the car, and I want the car to look all nice and slammed. You know, they're 22-inch diameter front wheels and 24 in the back, scaled of course. And I wanted the car to have a nice low slammed look, so I had to modify the front and back wheel wells. So with that being done, said, hold on a second here. With that being said, I want to modify the engine compartment here. And I'm not trying to go like award-winning custom show car here because I don't think my skill set's there yet. But I do have this nice 3D printed engine that I'm fitting under the hood. So I'm kind of going for a wheel well. I had to cut out the wheel wells to get the tires tucked up under there. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So that, you know, it's kind of got a slammed look up front there. But, you know, inside I want to look nicer than it does because I don't want the tires to be exposed. So this is all brand new territory for me. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to fabricate new inner wheel wells, and kind of using this photo as an example of what I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to make something out of styrene, see what I could do. It's either going to be it could be a major flop, but I was bored down here and I thought, hey, maybe I can bring you guys in with me. All right, so I already measured, and I think the width that I'm going to want is about 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to mark that out on some styrene here. Actually, let me mark it this way. Welcome to join in and comment there, folks, if you want. I'm kind of learning my way around mock-ups because, you know, normally I was always building box stock or whatever. And hey, John, how you doing, buddy? So I was kind of going box stock, which is way simpler and way quicker. But, you know, I got a nice looking 3D engine in there that I've already made up from Model Maker's workshop there, and the aftermarket wheels. So I'm trying to make a wheel well, inner wheel wells for that. But this whole fabbing and test fitting custom stuff is kind of new to me. Oops. and then holding things in place. You know, I know you could use like white glue. Oops. And I tried white glue because you can easily remove it after the fact, just to tack things together. But I find that just keeps falling apart on me too. So just kind of holding pieces together there and eyeballing. Charles, hello. Tariffs. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No doubt. It's not like the old days. I don't know how old you are, but when I was building as a kid, $5 bought you a kit and paint and glue, and you were on your way. Of course, you didn't make a lot of money either. All right, so I'm just using some 20,000 styrene here. And I am not a scratch built fabricator. And if you watch my channel, you probably know that I'm only a year into building. And I think I picked up kind of quick on speed here, but this fabricating is new to me, but I like to explore. Mike, hello there. Cool idea, holding together with a rubber band. Yeah. This kid, it worked out pretty good. Dax, good morning. Windburn. Dennis, I saw you commented last night. I apologize I missed it. But yeah, Dave's told me all about you. Appreciate you watching the channel. And welcome all the way from Colorado. Yeah, I don't always see the comments. So please, folks, don't think I'm ignoring you or blowing you off. I just glance over there once in a while. And if it's been a few minutes, you might have scrolled up on the screen already, and I just kind of flat out missed it. So if you really got an important message, go ahead and repeat it if you want, and hopefully I'll catch it. But you're just hanging out with me. I don't know. I'm going to test out this format here and see how it works. Rob, good morning. Okay, so for those of you that are just joining, what I'm trying to do is just something like this, since I cut these inner wheel tubs open. So I'm taking some 20,000 styrene strips here, and I'm going to try to build something. I'm just kind of guessing here. It's kind of stiff. Some hot water might help mold that. Yeah, it does form if I kind of just roll it around my finger a little bit. Thanks, Rob. I think it's a nice kit. I haven't gotten too far into it. I was saying in last night's video, I never really was attracted to the 60 Starliner, but on this one, I'm doing a slam down, Condigat Designs inspired type of build, and I think that's going to add a new beauty to the car. And I'm going to go with a real bright two-tone paint job. Well, not bright, it'll be black with a kind of green pearl here on the sides and slammed wheels. Yeah, I got these kind of wheels on the back, nice big fat ones. My problem is I want to do some really cool custom stuff, but at the same time, you got a channel that you got to kind of keep content's coming along. And when you get into this really extravagant build stuff, it's hard to produce models. Plus, I want to tour the show circuit again this year because I have so much fun doing that. I need to get some fresh builds to take to shows. Not for award-winning anything, but just, if you're going to make your presence, you might as well show some of your capabilities too. So I'm not even measuring this correctly. I'm just kind of dry fitting and cutting as I need to. I mean, something like that. Something like that. Let me just shave that down a little bit. Rub your fingers on the plastic to warm it up. There you go. Yeah, the old friction thing. We'll try that, Rob. I think a tub a coffee mug with some nice microwaved warm water would help too. You guys are watching me in uncharted territory. So any good suggestions that come along, you know, feel free to share them with me. I should have glued this together with some white glue or something though, so that it don't just keep disintegrating on me. Turn up your audio. You know what? I got a directional mic here. Is that better, Rob? Okay, somehow my mic changed on me. I don't know how that happened. The better, Rob? That happened on my live stream Friday too. Had everything set, and I missed it. Somebody was commenting that I sounded really tinny, but I didn't see that comment either. He was the only one saying it, and then when I did the playback, it's like, oh my god, my audio sounded horrible. Wrap the styrene around an X-Acto blade. Oh, you mean like the handle? Like this, maybe. Probably a little too tight of a diameter. I don't want to get kinks into it. I'm going to shave that down just a little bit. But I'm hoping that this kind of video entertains folks, because it's kind of fun, because I don't have to be all that, such a good producer. You know, I don't have to worry about content and bringing up slides and doing interviews and navigating all my stuff. And I can actually turn my head and watch you guys a little bit and answer your questions. Yeah, yeah, bigger diameter, like a pill bottle. Yep, that would work. Okay, so the biggest trick I think is going to be matching both sides too. And then once I get this figured out, I got to cut a nice arch. Okay. See, something like that. And then I have to make a side for it. What do you think? The model's journey. Can you help me with something about the USAC build? This will be my first time participating. What are the requirements? Okay, so the USAC build, I'm terrible with acronyms, but it's the Unified Content Creators Group build. So if you have either a presence on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, you partake in that, and then once a year, somebody in the food chain of video content creators picks the model. So this year it's the 69 Camaro from Revell in any iteration, whether it's an old kit or a new kit. And the rules are pretty loose. Whatever you want to build, it's got to be the 69 Revell, and you can build it any way you want. And I think the date started sometime in November, maybe, and runs to March 15th. So what it is if you want to like post progress of what you're doing, you can, but the reveal is to be held off until March 15th. And then everybody's going to reveal their car on the same day. So that's like an exciting thing if you're a model builder, because you're going to be seeing, 50, 100 people showing their builds of the car. So that's it. I mean, you can build it any way you want. So the only rule is that you wait for your reveal. Mikey from Chester's Models, thanks for joining. I saw you were there last night too, Mikey. I don't know how long you stayed, but I missed your comment there. You asked me what I was hacking up here, trying to fit these big oversized wheels into the car. Okay. I should have taken the time to kind of glue things together here. I think it would have helped me mock a little bit better. Yeah, Mikey, you got to join the group build. It's not too late. In fact, I started mine and did like 2 videos on the progress of it, and then put it in a box because I know the reveal's March. But I got to remember to go back to it because it's going to be heavily modified like this. And if I wait till the last minute, I might not be done in time. All right, let me find the right diameter. Big Charlie, welcome, sir. River Rat, welcome. I think it's time to disassemble and hold the plastic on the fender. Let's see here, buddy. I think it's time to disassemble and hold the plastic on the fender and trace from the underside with something sharp. It's a good recommendation. K-Dog Ken. How are you, sir? Yeah, you got a point there. You know, I wanted to start out with the body on because I want to, you know, I don't want to go too high. You know, because if I manufacture it just with the chassis, I might be sticking out over the hood. So this is, you know, just to get my length right. But you're right. Once I get this length right to where it'll form that nice little round and not protrude over the fender, then I can take the chassis off and take it from there. This is 1/25th scale. Well, let me check my box. Scale wise, I'm looking. I believe it's 1/25th. Huh. Actually, I don't see the scale on the box. The Camaro's 1/25th scale, yes. You know, I don't see it anywhere, but this particular model I do believe is a 1/25th scale. All right, so yeah, let me try pulling stuff out of here. I gotta watch live. What words I choose. By the way, I'll kind of show you what those wheels and that stance look like. Hold on just a second here. You know, this is all new to me too because I normally paint first, body prep and paint uh, first, and then build. But when you're doing this kind of modifications, you know, you're cutting and grinding, so yeah, you gotta not do that. Okay, so let me try to get this camera down here for you. Oops. Sorry, not trying to make anybody dizzy here. Anyways, that's kind of it, the slam lookout I'm going for. Is my audio okay now, folks? All right. Hi, chat. All right, so I'm going to try to disassemble this because that was a good suggestion. I think, you know, now that I have a visual of where the top of that needs to be, I don't need the body on there. I'm all thumbs when I do this. Parts are falling everywhere. So these are the modifications it took last night for the back wheels to fit in there. So I'm going to have to relocate my springs. And when the tire's in there, you really don't see anything, so I don't really have to patch that or anything. And then same with the front, I had to cut all that out. So. Okay. I'll probably need that firewall. Rob, it was organized. I try to keep it organized, but it doesn't take me long into the build for my desk to just turn into a disaster because I start pulling out everything I got, you know. Let me arrange that camera better. It starts out beautiful every day, and every day before I get down here and start building, I reorganize it again, and then it becomes cluttered. Yeah, Chad, I'm a night owl since I retired. I sleep in the morning and I stay up late. Big Charlie, do I have a 3D printer? No. I do want to get one. I got to learn how. And I'm not worried about the technology part. I think, you know, I think I'll be able to figure out the computer and the files and all that stuff. But I know there's that big learning curve about calibrating your resins and how you support the product and stuff. So someday I'm going to get there. But the cool part right now is Model Maker's Workshop sponsors my channel. So he sends me some samples to review, like that engine, and actually these wheels and tires. So it's one of the perks about having a sponsor. You know, he wants me to review his stuff. So he sends it to me. So it's kind of a plus. Hope it don't get too boring though. You know, if you're expecting real entertainment, you got in the wrong place for this kind of thing. Because like last night, I think I was on for 2 hours just as I was whittling away at those, cutting out the wheel wells. Because first of all, I'm yapping like crazy. All right, so that's kind of tricky there. There's a gap there. I'm gonna have to grind. How do I do this? I'm gonna have to kind of cut out grind here. All right, let me try something. I'm gonna get my little grinder out. Yeah, heat gun, boiling water would definitely help. But for right now, I'm not really at that stage. Now, when I get ready to start trying to glue this together and stuff, I'm definitely going to have it shaped better. Hi, Jim. I'm tending a fire and watching an auction. What do you got, a fire in the backyard or in the fireplace? And what auction? Who is that, Bear Jackson or somebody? All right. Use my little Dremel here. I got plenty of styrene in case I get this all wrong. But I'm having the mold around this little front end here. If you see right there, there's that existing apron. There you go. I almost got that just right there on my first try. And then I know I can't go higher than that outer edge. All right. A little more grinding there. Oh, eBay auction. Okay. I'll have to look. Barrett Jackson Scottsdale should be coming up. I used to live in Arizona, and I would go to that every year. And I had a detail business at the time. And I don't know if you guys watched the big car auctions like Barrett Jackson, but there was one of the big high rollers was Ron Pratt. He was a very wealthy home builder out in the West. And he had a collection of a warehouse and probably like 150 awesome show cars, rare vintage cars, movie cars, you name it. And he became one of my clients, so I would go to his warehouse and I would color sand and buff cars that he bought on Bear Jackson that just had a little bit of orange peel or whatever, and he wanted that perfect flat paint job, touch up blemishes or whatnot. And then when he's prepping a car to go, he bought them, sold every year. So then I would prep all the cars. So like he'd bring a dozen to the show to sell, and I would prep all those. It was fun because other days I was detailing soccer moms' vans out in the driveway someplace, and then I would be at his warehouse doing that. It was a lot of fun. I got a video of it though. I'm a pretty bold guy. When he hired me, I was still fairly new to detailing, and I hadn't done a whole lot of sanding and buffing. I did paint a couple cars in my garage and was kind of learning that process. But the day I met him, he had a Superbird, Plymouth Superbird that he bought for $400,000, and it had a little orange peel. So he's saying, well, can you color sand and buff and make this show car paint? And I said, absolutely. I charged him like $1,500 back in year 2000 and tore the car apart. I took off the, with a heat gun, I removed all the Plymouth decals, the big Plymouth Superbird decals. I removed the rear wing. I removed everything and sanded that car down, starting with like 1500 sanding grit, and then worked my way back up, just like you do on a model kit here. But I had never done that professionally, never done it on a $400,000 car, but that's the way I roll. Thanks for my background. Yeah. My real background is metal heat treating, quality management, production management, and changing the structures of steel. But my hobby, and I did have my side business for several years, is automotive. Okay, yeah, I'm kind of getting the feel for it. I'm just roughing it here. Kind of shaping it like so, and then I'll have to come up with a side. But yeah, I got that little profile here that's starting to fit nice. So once I get that into place, I guess I'll use model cement to kind of glue that into place. And then I'm going to do like whatever, that shade of green, I'll paint that engine compartment. See, I'm starting to like that. That's looking good. All right, so now I need to lock in that shape. And while I got that figured out, I might as well mark it on my other piece here. For length anyways. And then I'll be able to reverse that by flipping it over. Making a mirror of itself. Yeah, Jim, knife blades too, but it was everything. It was in Arizona when I started out doing it. It was aircraft and spacecraft. All the exotic alloys that made up the turbine blades and the jet engines, they had to be hardened and toughened to certain specifications. Here in Ohio, it's more commercial tooling and stuff is our main thing. You know, parts that have to have either wear resistance or shock resistance or whatever. But yeah, there were some knife people that we would do. In fact, I got some really nice swords and knives because we would instead of charging a guy who was a knife maker, you know, he'd make like 50 knives, and you know, he'd ask how much to heat treat them and whatever, and would say, well, you know what, when you finish one, give it to us. So what we would do is would do a heat treat, and periodically he would give us a finished sword or a finished knife, and we would raffle it off, and I won 3 or 4 of them. Okay, try grinding this one down a little bit too. If anybody thinks I'm a master builder, I am not. I don't know what I'm doing. I learn on the improv. But that's the fun part. And I know the viewers I have, many of you are either master builders or just excellent builders, whether it's box stock or custom. But I also have a pretty good following of people that are just getting into the hobby and wanting to learn a lot of stuff. And I really catered to that because that's kind of what I am. I'm 1 year into building, so I'm by far no expert. But as I learn things, I share them. Spyderco, not familiar with that one. Jim? So anyways, I fully retired in October 2024 and took up this passion. And I appointed a guy to replace me. He wasn't really experienced, but I thought with everything I had in place that he could just kind of take over and learn the job. But he ended up being a total failure, and nobody caught on because nobody else understands that job very well, including ownership. So he milked it for a year and made things go horribly wrong. So they brought me back in to kind of save them. And we're trying to find a replacement because I really don't want to do that. I'm doing it as a favor. I mean, they're paying me pretty well to do it because I wouldn't do it elsewise. Mickey Irico, custom matchmaker out of Canfield. Not familiar with them. We don't do knives here so much. It was in Arizona where most of that happened. I got 2 beautiful swords though, and a bunch of different skinning knives and stuff. Beautiful handles made out of like deer antlers. Really cool stuff. All right. Now my problem is I need hot water. That means I'm gonna have to walk away from the camera. He's a knife maker. Okay. Yeah, haven't run into knife makers here. But we can do them, you know, if somebody has them. We can't do oil hardening anymore. We did away with that. But we have vacuum hardening, which means that, you know, you don't decarburize or anything. It's all done in a vacuum. So parts that go into the furnace can go, you know, we can take stuff up to 2200 degrees and it comes out nice and bright and shiny, you know, because it's all on a protective vacuum like outer space. All right. I think if I get it close enough, I can probably finish with putty. Spell check. Yeah. What do you mean, Chet? What do you mean your builds suck? Okay, I kind of got some kinks there. I hate to do this, but I'm going to walk away for a minute to get a cup of really hot water. So, entertain yourselves, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. A heat gun, yeah, that might work too. I know it would. First, I'm going to try warm water because it's not very thick. It's only 20,000 stick. I got to thinking while I was getting the hot water, and this is just hot tap water. But I got to thinking I probably need to make a sign saying "Be right back," because if you just tuned in and you're looking at 2 minutes of a bench with nothing happening, you're saying, "What am I tuning into here?" All right, so I can just get some hot water here. I don't think it's going to take much. I don't think it's hot enough though. Need to stick that in the microwave. Need a smaller diameter. A55. Just curious if super glue bottles eat themselves. Had 5 bottles of uncure and 3 variable time setting super glues glued themselves to the shelf. I don't know. Never really had that happen. Must be some sort of evaporation getting out there. Okay, that didn't work. I don't think it's hot enough. So I think what I could do in the back here is just kind of overlap there, because you really won't see that. This may be a whole failed proposition. I'm just, you know, you try. And if it don't work, you might have to come up with a new idea. I almost committed to just making this a curbside because really to me, excuse me, to me, the most important part of this build is just that stance with the big wheels tucked under and a nice paint job. That's really what I'm going for. I'm not looking for a judge competition winning car here. So I'm tempted to just speed up the process and make it a curbside and don't worry about what's under the hood or what's under the chassis. Just look at it. But I don't know. I want to learn. So I'm trying. But in the end, if all my attempts fail, it just means that I'm an amateur still and I got more learning to do. And to save the kit, people throw them away or put them back in the box for another day. You know, I'll finish it up and I'll just make it a curbside and learn what I learned. Yeah, that's not working. Okay, gonna get my hair dryer. Be right back. Be right back. Let me do this. Hold on a second. I'm trying to learn my way around even this kind of live stream. Hang on, I'm gonna go get my hair dryer. I'm not sure why you're having a problem with your super glue because I keep like this bottle. Oh, let me take my sign away because I'm back. Like this bottle here, I don't even have a cap on it. I have this little applicator and it stays liquefied and works. And I might have to clip the top off before I use it again, but yeah, I'm not having a problem. This is called Star Bond. It's a cheap Amazon glue, but it works. All right, so anyways, I'm going to plug in my hair dryer. Now I do have a heat gun out in my garage that'll get super hot. Usually I burn my fingers on that one. So let me try hair dryer. All right, I'm going to make some noise. Welcome, West Georgia Rods and Customs. Like the name of that handle. Okay, marginal, still not hot enough. The trick is, I'm debating whether I should get that shaped and glued into place and then make my side, and that might be what I want to do. You know what I mean? Get this formed, get it glued into place, and then make a front of it. I think that's what I'm going to try. So let me just finish getting this thing shaped. Yeah, West Georgia, boiled water would work, but I don't want to leave the screen here that long. I think if I heat that up wrapped around something, it would be better. If I don't burn my hand. Well, that's better. It's starting to hold some shape here. And don't need it to be 100% shape perfect because I can glue that front and middle and then wait for that glue to cure and then glue it up in the back. Yeah, that's working pretty good. Okay. I did try hot water. It's not hot enough. Okay, I'm going to form that a little bit more because that worked by just holding it around here and heating that up. So folks, what you are watching is a guy trying to learn how to be a custom model builder when he really isn't one, but we all got to learn somewhere. But I'm not afraid of trying and putting it right out there because I know I'm not alone. Appreciate everybody's advice though as we're going along because it does come in handy and I always welcome that. See, it's looking better. It's, well, you can't see. Let me hold that up to place here. So I think I'm getting real close here. A little bit more tweaking and I'll just tack that in with some glue and build it in the model, I think. All right, so what do I need to adjust? Let me get my firewall. See, whatever happens back here, it really isn't going to show. Okay. Just a little more sanding. Oop. Doesn't take much. I might have got a little too aggressive there. I know what you're watching is probably boring as can be, but I think the fun part is if we're sitting around bored, or if you're down in your build room right now and just have this on as a background, you know, it's kind of like keeping you company as you build. Professional collector, yeah. I'll tell you, I mean, I've got probably 40 kits. I vowed not to even get past 20 when I started stocking up on them. But it's addictive because I have a lot of builds, you know, probably 2 years worth to build if I just keep building. But you get to the store and you'll see something that you hadn't seen before. And as you know, they're not always available. So it's like, I got to get it now. And that's what happens. And once you're on that rabbit hole, it doesn't end. I was talking to Craig Woods the other day, you know, prepping for our show on our live stream Friday. He's got 400 something kits, he said. You know, he's younger than me, but I still don't think he's going to build them all. Cut your styrene bigger than the area you needed. Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is once I get this formed around, I'm going to take a piece of masking tape and tack it on there so you'll be able to see that curve, and that'll be like a mold for getting that curve down. Okay, I'm kind of liking that. Okay, I'm just going to heat that up a little bit more to try to get it to hold its shape a little tighter. So I'm just going to wrap and pinch that. Good question, Dex. I probably got. I'll have to count them. I think I'm about somewhere around 40. Interesting to see what everybody else got. West Georgia, 500 kits. How many do you build a year? You know, the sad part is, guys, those big collections like that, if you ever go to a show and see the vendors that are selling models for $15, they're estate sales purchases. You know, people buy 500, collect 500 kits, never built them, and you probably spent good money collecting them. And then your estate someday, when you're gone, they go for pennies on the dollar, and somebody else is selling them for, reselling them. So be careful of that, unless you don't care. And I don't care either. Like, once I'm gone, what's it matter, right? All right. I'm getting close. I'm getting close enough that I'm going to try this. I think I'm going to use a stronger glue. I have the my extra thin cement, but in this case, I think this stuff's a little more powerful. Humbrol liquid poly. I just have to be careful not to get my fingers, all screwed up and stuff. And this stuff melts styrene, so if when you got a thin sheet like this, it could backfire on me. So my intention is to kind of pinch it in this front corner, almost like you're going to tack weld sheet metal and wrap it around. See, I lost my shape again. I'm going to go with something smaller diameter with that heat gun. What do I got that won't melt? I think that's too small of a diameter. Oh, I really don't have anything right here. Okay, just gonna stick with this. Just gonna get it hotter. River Rat, professional collector. But you're building in retirement, good. Ooh, burning my fingers. That's why I'm not using my real heat gun. When I first came up with my channel name, I thought, well, that's kind of hokey, and I thought about changing it pretty much at the beginning, but then it caught on and became recognizable. But I think it fits because I think it brings in the target audience. I am targeting helping people returning to the hobby and learning their way through, like me. So some of my stuff, like this, is where I'm clueless and just kind of winging it. But on my videos, it's stuff that I've learned and perfected a little bit, and I may have learned it from somebody else. Most of the time I do. But then once I get it down, I share the information. And I enjoy doing that. I made a lot of friends. Because even your lifelong friends, if you kept in touch with people from your childhood or whatever, workplace, wherever, well, we all change, So the people that I was friends with in high school or in my early 20s, I'm a whole different person from that guy. So when you reconnect with them, or if you never even lost contact, obviously your interests change as you mature. So what's kind of cool is picking up new friends with the hobby. Like Kevin Smith, he and I, we talk for hours a week just because it's cool stuff to talk about. Craig Woods the other day. When we rehearsed that live stream, we were on for 2.5 hours just bullshitting. Uh, okay, I think I got that, or I'm going to try it. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I thought it was relatable too. I mean, that wasn't my original thought. All right, what I'm going to try to do here is just kind of piece this together like you were welding. It may not be on camera here. I can't do everything on camera, but I'll try. I'll tell you what, I do want you to see what I'm trying to do. In fact, I got two different options for clamping here. Sort of like a welding clamp, right? We'll see. Yeah, okay, it's not quite holding it the way I wanted it to. And this probably won't either. No. Go to a bigger clothespin. I know I'm not doing this the right way, but Oops, it went flying. Okay, just gonna hold it. Good old fingers sometimes are the best clamps. There you go. So I want to hold that like that, and then I'm gonna try a little glue right at the seam and let that set up, and just hold it there for a little while. Yeah, Craig is a phenomenal builder. He's one of the guys that I watched. It's hard to find a channel where somebody really takes their time and explain it. I think I'm kind of successfully doing that now. A lot of my fan base seems to appreciate that. But Craig was one that I found who was doing the same thing. It's like, too many guys show how they do a beautiful paint job, but they're not really showing how they did it. They don't show how they mixed their paint. They don't show how they prepped everything. And you got to see it. And then, of course, you got to do it. Yeah, you saw him at Acme. I plan on going to Acme this year. I'm probably not going to stay at that hotel. Sounds like a hoot, but my understanding is it books up quick, probably like before that show's over. So chances of me even booking a room at the host hotel is probably slim. And I haven't even thought about making a reservation yet. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive down there, and I'm sure that Atlanta isn't all booked up. So I'll find something that's 15 minutes away, and then just join in the festivities. At the host hotel, because I guess there's meet and greets and dinners and that kind of stuff, plus the show itself. Oops, and see that left a fingerprint there. A capillary action. Said at the beginning, it may not be the way to go. Yeah, the capillary action got my thumb there, but I think where that thumbprint is not going to be an issue. All right, so now I'm putting glue on the back end of it there. All right, I'll just set up for a little bit. Kevin, how you doing, buddy? You stayed up late last night with me? I'm off camera. Hang on, let me try to move that camera, flip around here. Okay, where am I? There we go. So I'm trying to glue this wheel tub in. I'm kind of holding it in place while the glue melts and welds. And I'm kind of doing it from front to let that set up. Now I'm trying the top section and let that set up. And then I'll go to the back and try to let that set up. Oh, your back's killing you. Sorry to hear that, buddy. Luckily, I mean, that's one of the things I like about the model building is I'm hurting pretty bad. That's the one drawback. I'm having so much fun in retirement, but I hurt a lot, and I'm sure anybody our age kind of knows that feeling. Luckily, I can still get on and off my Harley and ride that, and that's the day I know I've gone wrong is when I can't get on that bike. I could still do that. But yard work, taking nice long walks, all that stuff is starting to get pretty painful. So at least I can come down here and sit in my chair and work for hours and it doesn't hurt me. My biggest problem here is my eyes. My eyes are failing me. Audio still okay, everybody? I hate to go a long time and then find out that my audio was bad. Alright, I'm trying to get that glue to set up. The only thing is it's not instantaneous, and I don't want to use super glue because that's way too brittle. Thanks, Mike. Audio's good. Check, check, check. Alright. Yeah, it's not working out the best for me. Let me try to get some glue back here where it's going to really help me. In fact, there I can put a clamp on. There we go, because my arthritic fingers are getting sore holding that. And I think any gap there, I'll be able to touch up with putty or super glue. Fills gaps too. I just have to make sure I don't sit too tall. Because if it sits much taller than this, it could interfere with the hood. All right. So now I got that pinched a little tighter. You know what? I'm going to try the Tamiya. Yeah, the super glue with the accelerator. Problem is that's extremely brittle. One bump and bang, it snaps. But if you mean just to tack it into place, you may be onto something, huh? Okay. So this is the next best thing to watching paint dry, is watching Ken's glue dry. Obviously, you guys are having a very exciting Sunday here to be tuned in to me. Who's building right now? Who's building and who's just surfing? Kevin. That sounds good. PCV glue. I might have some of that in my garage. But I think the last time I did any PVC plumbing is probably 10 years ago. So if it's in the garage, it's probably no good. So I don't care about that back corner there. That's not going to show at all. It's just mainly this top radius is what's going to be visible. But my plan is if I can get that to set up and glue into place, I can putty the front air a little bit or glue that down, and then I'll make a side, and I'll just use a piece of masking tape. Mikey, what are you building right now? Mikey's going to be a guest on the show with his pop. We haven't finalized the date, but tentatively first week of February. We met in Detroit. Real nice father-son team there. 56 Bird. Okay, yeah, nice. Finally got to meet Jim, Papa's model workshop. He's my guest for this Friday night. So we did a little rehearsal this morning. So we met virtually online. Really nice guy. So I'm looking forward to this Friday's show. And our topic's going to be YouTube influencers on model building. Because there's a whole different, there's so many influencers, but not everybody, but there's like 3 or 4 different categories. Like how-to kind of thing. Craig at Craig's Corners how-to. Papa's kind of a how-to. But then you get a lot of guys that are the Sunday morning models and coffee or the What'd You Buy guys. And there's a real place for that too. There's the guy that does nothing but shout outs half the time. But I watch those because you get to learn other creators that you didn't know existed, perhaps. They kind of bring it to your attention. And then the What'd You Buy stuff is entertaining because you find out where to get stuff, or what's out there. So I think every one has its place. Yeah, Kevin, I think that's going to be a fun one because Mikey's the youngest builder that I know right now. Mikey, do you mind sharing your age? I'm going to guess you're in your low 20s. Well, I did meet some kids in Cleveland. If you watch my Cleveland Model Show coverage toward the end, there was the youth builds. And I'll tell you what, some of those kids were building some nice stuff. I was really impressed. And they were enthusiastic. I did a little interview with them and stuff. I'm sure their dads helped them and stuff, but pretty cool. Yeah, Chet, he's a Mets fan, all right. He was mentioning that today. Really nice guy. I gotta, every day I have been meaning to get online and start finding all the dates of the shows coming up because I really haven't taken the time to do that. I just know that they're generally coming up, but I want to meet Papa. And I think NNL East might be the place to do it. For me, that would be, I think it's about an 8-hour drive. But I'm willing to do it because I'm getting addicted to the shows. They're so much fun. All right, just waiting for that to set up. It's starting to set up there. Yeah, I mean, that's working for me. It's doing what I want it to do. And then I think if I make a template out of masking tape for this side profile, if I even need it, but I think I will. All right, gonna try clamping the front end a little bit better. See you, Fred. Lucas C guys are up, huh? Okay. Did I see your text? No, and with the stream here, let me see. I got to be careful here not to cut myself off. All right. Now I got to try to sort out why my phone camera quit working. Could be the battery. Nope, I still got a good charge going there. All right, so let me find out why the phone quit working. Gotta love this technology. Okay, got it back. Yeah, Kevin, it's your fault. It's your fault. Okay, you had a question about UV resin. Let me read it. If you were to brush it on a bumper over spray chrome, would it blush out without leaving brush marks? Now, the problem, Kevin, with the UV resin, you were asking me about that yesterday. If you put that over model chrome, no problem. But if you put it over painted on spray chrome or whatever, pretty sure it's going to just turn it like silver paint. You'd have to just try it. But as far as brushstrokes go and stuff, it has a good surface tension. I have not tried to brush it. So far, every time I used it, I've just dabbed it in using a toothpick and dabbed it into like lenses and taillights and stuff like that. And it it has a surface tension which kind of builds up a little dome, and then you put it under the UV light and lock it in. But you know, it's kind of thick like a molasses or maple syrup when you put it on. So my guess is that it would kind of self level. So maybe you put it on and level it out, because if you don't put it under the UV light, it is going to just stay sticky and tacky. Uh, so yeah, I'll bet, just play with it, try it on something. Yeah, okay. So see that kind of take your time and kind of glue it into place. It's not beautiful, but this front end is not going to show. Back end's not going to show. This here I can sand and smooth out a little bit. Um, by the time you get everything into place here, I'm just fumbling around. This whole mock-up thing is new to me too. All right, then by the time you get your radiator support in there. And Kevin, you were asking me last night about the old 60s if they had the reservoir. Yeah, I didn't notice that in the kit. I hadn't got that far, but it does. So I'll probably utilize that. That goes there. Like so. I should use, I'll bet my sticky tack would be a good way to just kind of mock stuff up. All right. Now that engine tucks way down in there too. I should have put that in first. Oh, got to get my frame. Everything falls apart on me. Everything explodes. Okay, kind of like that. I don't think, Mikey, that the 12 scale works. I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't think so. Is that a Revell kit? It is a Revell kit. Okay. Not quite sure. I haven't seen anybody going that route. So Lucas C. Fred Henry is the one who actually called out the model. So if you reach them, okay, so there you go. Let's take a look here. Starting to take shape there. I think it will need that side. But I think, you fix that up real nice and then you paint it, like I'll paint that the custom bright green that I'm going to do the outside of the sides with. And I think that'll pretty it up in there. What do you guys think? Yeah, Rob, I think you're right. 125th scale, I do believe. All right, that's going to look cool. Hang on, I want to try something else real quick here. I got to go by my spray booth. I sprayed some chrome yesterday on my air cleaner. I want to see how that came out. Every time I walk away from my desk, I'll do this because people tuning in, they're going to be like, what? Thanks for the feedback there, Kevin. Okay, so I used that newest Fusion Firm spray chrome on my air cleaner yesterday. It's an Edelbrock air cleaner. I'm going to peel off my masking. I just used 1/4 or 1/8 inch fine line to tape off the filter media. Hopefully I don't peel up any paint. There we go. Now, one thing I noticed on these 3D kits is everything fits so really, really good, but on the air cleaners, they don't fit the profile of the carburetor at all. Like they don't have that horn ring or anything. So I went out to my garage and I found some washers that fit around where the horn ring would go and kind of spaces that up and makes it sit level. So I'm going to see if I can get that in there. because I got to make sure the hood's going to shut. Well, it's going to be very close. It's going to be very close. It's not really fitted in there well, though. But that'll give you an idea there. It's like an engine dress-up kit. All right. That spray chrome's only been on for about 24 hours, and they say it takes 72 to cure. But it's got a nice finish. Looks like I had a little bit of dust in it. Hopefully that, camera shows more, I think, than the naked eye sees a lot of time. Thanks, Rob. All right, I'm going to set that aside. All right, so that mock-up worked pretty good, so I guess I'll work on the other side. And then once both sides are in there, I will try to make a template for the sides. But isn't that a nice looking 3D engine? And that Ford oval there on the valve covers, what I did is I took a popsicle stick and painted that and then pressed the popsicle stick on so it's like pad printing. Came out really nice. But I love the details. And all this is that new water-based acrylics from Kaleido. They have metal colors. So that's gunmetal. I didn't use a stainless this time. I used gunmetal here, but they got a nice little copper for the carburetor. Really nice colors. I have a nice collection of their stuff going on here. Right there. They got like, 3 or 4 basic sets now. They have the automotive colors, which is 24 variations. They have a 24-piece kit called the primary colors, which are just primary colors. And then they got what they call the mecha kit and the metals kit. So quite a bit of colors they came out with. And they spray really nice. If you haven't seen my video doing some of the paint jobs with that. In fact, this paint job here is going to be done with the Kaleido colors too. Two-tone. It's going to be black with Inferno green. And that's what I'm going to put in the engine compartment. No, Rob, it's a small block Ford, so I'm not sure. It could be a 302 or whatever, but it's from my sponsor, Model Makers Workshop. Real nice, real nice. Yeah, I'm throwing all kinds of 3D stuff at it. Those big wheels here. So they look good, but they do need disc brakes, behind it. So can detail these up really nice. Paint a nice red caliper on there. Stick that in there behind it. And that's going to look really nice with, all detailed out. Could use a larger diameter brake disc, but that's what I have to work with. It is kind of fun. The 3D offerings are nice, but fitting that stuff could be a bear. Like even the back wheels. To get everything in and all that shaving I did, these wheels stick out a little bit. The profile where the spokes are, they actually protrude out the top a little bit. So what's up that you don't see, I had to shave down just a little bit, but you're never going to see that because that's inside the fender well there. So it takes a lot of work to fit this stuff. All right, so I got to work on my second fender well there. What do you guys think? I mean, just impromptu build session like this. I guess I know the answer. You're watching. So I guess it's okay. Yeah, Kevin, I am leaving the wheels black, which is not my thing. I'm a chrome guy. But on certain builds, I do like that look, and the way I envision this car with the really slammed and those super big wheels, I think that gloss black with the two-tone black and green paint job, I think they're going to pop. I think they're going to look good. And that is not even black paint. That is the Kaleido black primer. But I did shoot a little bit of their clear on there. Even on their primer, they have a gloss primer or a flat primer. Their gloss is very glossy, but I went ahead and topped it off with their clear coat too. So I think they're going to look pretty nice. But I'm not a fan of like super low profile tires. But once again, on this build, I think it's going to fit. Thanks, Mike. I gotta tell you, I mean, it's a lot more fun doing this kind of video than all my others because working in front of a camera can be difficult. In this case, you know, I'm kind of not doing too much of a difficult chore, but like just letting the camera run and not trying to be all polished and have an agenda and be presenting stuff. You know, it's a nice diversion. Okay, so now I got to fit this one. Okay, I got to shave that a little bit more. Just using a little sanding drum head there. Doesn't take much. Rob, you're in LA? Yeah, 68. Yeah. I lived in Phoenix for 27 years. So this time of year, it's not uncommon to be 65 and 70, blue skies and sunny all winter long. It'll still get chilly at night. You know, you'll go down into the 40s and sometimes 30s. Rare, but you know, but 70s. Like watch Barrett Jackson coming up here in this month. Probably next week it's probably due in Scottsdale, and you see all those people outside where they're staging up the cars and they show the scenes of people. They're walking shorts and t-shirts and you know, just having a good old time. I do miss that, but I do not miss the traffic and the hustle and bustle. I'm in small town USA again and I'm loving it. Phoenix was nice when I moved there in 81. There was only like 300,000 people, which is big, but it was a big sprawling city. Youngstown, where I'm from, had about 100,000. But when I left, it was 3 million people. Every freeway is 10 lanes. Every surface street is 3 lanes each direction. So you're at a red light at every major crossroad. You're sitting, you know, you got to go through 3 or 4 red lights to go. You know, I don't miss that at all. Red stripe on the wheels. Yeah, Kevin, I guess that might look good. I gotta look, but there isn't much. Oh, on the wheel, yeah. Boy, that's a thought. That's a thought. Yeah, you can do that outer. Oh, sorry, camera. Yeah, get that outer edge. What about the green? What if I did that outer edge in the same green that I'm going to use on the car? I think that would even be better. I'm going to have to keep that in mind. I think the green would be good and tie it in with the paint job. It's so sad, Rob, what happened last year there in the Palisades. Beautiful area on the Pacific Coast Highway, I guess it is, right? What blows my mind is like all those little restaurants and lookout points got burned up too. It's like, how's that happen? You're right at the water edge. So I guess the wind was blowing from the land to the sea, but that was so devastating. Okay, so it's starting to fit. Roadkill Garage. Yeah, I seen a little bit of his work. Hello, John. Your used that Camaro's coming along nice. I got to get back on mine. When I realized that you can't reveal it until March 15th, I put it on the back burner. But I don't want to forget because I still have a lot of work to do on that. Okay, I got to find my file. I had one here that's as organized as I try to be. Once I start pulling out all the tools and moving along here, it doesn't take me long. There it is under my camera. It doesn't take me long to get disorganized. All right, now I just got to form that one around my metal here to get it rounded off better. Yeah, it's awful, Rob. And I'm not sure what happened there either. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about that too. And they may be true. Sort of like that happened in Hawaii the year before. I don't know about the styrene, but my fingers are melting. Yeah, I don't know if this is working or not, or the way to do it, but I think we all have our ways. And the bottom line when you do any of this stuff is it's not whether it's right or wrong, it's if the final appearance is correct. Right? All right, I gotta grab a little bit more on this top here. A55, do I prime? On my plastic model kit engines, no, I really don't. But on these 3D printed ones, yes. Because that 3D resin, it sort of absorbs paint, if you will. I don't know how to explain it. So the primer kind of works like a sealer. It's sort of porous, although it doesn't look like it. So yes, I found that priming, that works. No, I won't prime like a little detail like an oil cap or something like that because it's not got enough surface area to stand out. But stuff like valve covers and blocks and things like that, air cleaners. Okay, pretty close, pretty close. Brian, Fuels Models, that's Brian, right? So you're watching a guy who doesn't really know what he's doing learn how to do what he's doing. I think what I'm going to do is, I need to keep these builds moving along, because your channel, when it gets successful, people are expecting new content pretty much regularly. And the more and more customized you want to go, the harder it is to crank out videos. I like my videos to be quality, but you know, when you're getting into this kind of level, it really slows down the builds. So I think what I probably need to do is just kind of keep some of the kits moving along without too much work being done like that. And then maybe take a kit and take a whole year on it off camera, just, or at least live like this. I think that would be fun. You know, then I would, you know, on a kit like that, I would make all my doors open and I'd put door jams in and, you know, but no pressure of video. All right, see, that's starting to look pretty good now. So I'm going to heat that up a little bit and I'm going to glue that like I did the other side. I do need to get a little hotter than I am. Yep. So Brian, okay. Yeah, yeah. Just got to dive in there. Well, it's like airbrushing. You know, I had no airbrush experience. I did actually. I mean, I used to paint motorcycles and stuff in my garage, and I would do flame jobs and stuff. So I was using a regular paint gun, but for like ghosting in flames and stuff like that, I would mask it off and I would use an airbrush just to highlight the edges. So I was familiar with the airbrush, but painting models and stuff, no, I was using the old rattle cans back in the day. In fact, once again, I've been showing this off, but I found I don't have much from my old days here. Very little. None of my builds survived. But Chester's paint, 19 cents. You remember that? It still exists. This is probably from early 70s. As far as just doing these impromptu live streams like this, I actually got the idea from Sparky's Model Salvage. If you haven't watched his channel, go search him out. He does primarily weathered, age-beaten stuff, but he's a master at it. But he does a lot of these live streams just impromptu. I've seen him all hours of the day and night and weekends where he just turns on the camera. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I don't have any build buddies or anything, so I'm kind of having fun here with doing this and just bullshitting with you guys. It's like, you know, like if you're sitting next to me on the table here. All right, I just got to get that to hold its shape a little bit better. Well, Kevin, you're younger than me, so I don't remember that. I thought they started at 15 cents. In fact, my hobby store, local hobby store, he has a bottle in his display case at 15 cents. But they might have been a dime. Or on sale. Maybe it was suggested retail was 15. Yeah, I used to get my allowance and mow lawns and just do whatever I could for a little bit of money. And once I had $5, that was all I needed to get everything I needed. Spray can color or whatever I was going to do. You know, the old testers, spray can, the glue, several bottles of this, and a kit, yeah. But it's all relative too, though, you know, because what's a kid? Ain't no kids mowing a lawn for $5 anymore, right? All right, so now I gotta try to clamp this one and get glue going. Heavy duty aluminum duct tape for what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah, you just be careful and you tack it into place. I don't know. Yeah. That's what I was talking about. There's so many ways to skin a cat. All right, so once again, I am going to just be careful not to glue my fingerprint into there, but I am going to. Not a good way to clamp that because there's a roll there. But I want to get that in their place and weld. How do I hold that? Ay, ay, ay. See, if I hold that, I'm afraid the capillary action of the glue is going to get me. I'm going for it. Hopefully I don't leave a big thumbprint in there. John, Kevin was sharing with me your race cars. Really cool. Talk about a hobby. And I'll bet that's a fun experience for you because you feel them engines, huh? I mean, that's a sensation where you don't need the sound. All right, now trick is to hold that there and let it glue up. Yeah, those tester brushes. I actually have one here. I actually use these for my micro set and my micro saw decal solutions because that's all they're good for, or cleaning. I didn't know they had testers paint pens. I'll tell you what, though, I am a big fan of the acrylic paint pens, especially these dual-sided ones that has a brush tip on one side and a fine tip on the other. Those are great. They lay on a nice color. I want to get the AK Interactive set because I hear they're the best of quality. But even my Amazon cheapies are not doing too bad. The silvers and the blacks, anyways. I bought a color set and wasn't really impressed with that. Okay, get my thumb out of there. Okay, that held, so no, it's not holding. It moved on me. As soon as I let go, it started moving. All right, so maybe it's enough for me to. Yeah, this one isn't working as good. I need to heat that up more. I don't have the right clamps for everything. There's a weird profile right there. Ouch! Ouch! Fingers are getting hot. Maybe I'm taking the wrong approach here too, trying to do it on the end and work it around. Maybe I ought to start at the top. Well, let me try gluing this or clamping. See, I can clamp back here. I'm going to name this show Watching Paint Dry with Ken Melissa. What do you think? Catchy name? The other side worked out a little bit better for me. I'm missing something. But the other side, I get that front to stick down before I formed it. And kind of holding it into place there. Let me try gluing it here. Yeah, to show my face and to show my model, I would have to have another device and invite myself to the stream as a guest and then project the two of us. Sorry it doesn't do closed caption, John. Do the repeats do closed caption though when you watch them after they're recorded? Oh, pronouncing my name? You not heard that before, Kevin? Yeah. MalamalYsa. Melissa. The Y is like an I and just pronounced like the girl's name, just spelled differently. A lot of people get it wrong. Some reason they want to say Malaysia. Yep. Melissa. Used to get teased when I was in school with that name. I could care less now. You know, that's one of the perks about maturity. Go ahead, call me a name. I don't care if you make fun of my name. It's silly that you do that. But boy, remember back in school, those were like the end of the world situations. Like, oh my God, I can call me names. Okay, good, good. At least he has a closed caption. All right, I just gotta let that set up. That's the part I have trouble holding patience with, even with my super glues. You know, this Star Bond that I'm using, I only use it because my little tips. I bought a whole bag of a couple hundred of these little tips, and they fit this bottle better than they fit my, excuse me, Bob Johnson bottles. Now Bob Smith, the Bob Smith super glues actually work better, in my opinion, but the Star Bond fits my caps, and I've got so many of those. And of course, the Instaset works with any super glue. But even though it says it's a 10 to 15 second glue, there's times where it's 3 seconds, and there's times where it's 40 seconds. So I'm not sure why that is the case, but You know, I'm terrible at sitting here and waiting. I get impatient, I let go, and then things pop apart on me. All right. See, have I been holding that long enough? Probably not. My finger glued to the car. There we go. Let go. Okay. Now that kind of held, but I'm afraid it's not going to stay. I needed to shave that a little bit more. That's probably not the answer. Actually, this is a case where CA glue might actually be the answer. Oh, let's see. Which one do I want to use? I think this bottle of Bob Smith is the medium filling glue, 5 to 10 seconds. I'm going to try that. Let's see, I got a whole big bag of these, but they don't fit the Bob Smith well. I'm going to have to find a better match for that. Yeah, paint strainers for packaging, Kevin. That was brilliant. I have a bunch too from my painting days, but they come in handy, yeah. And they help pack. They help protect. I don't strain all my paints, but I typically do for sure on mixing acrylics or if I'm using a hardener, because it's very possible to get a little bit of crystallized hardener into your paint, and that'll give you a bad day, whether it either just spits out on you or clogs your gun all the way. Yeah, see, that's why I refrain from using this, as it doesn't really hold on there good. But let's see here. I'm going to try. Using the super glue here for the seam, because it's also a gap filler. Good to definitely watch where my fingers are. Because I never forgot the day where I didn't have any acetone and I had to send my wife to the dollar store. In a big hurry. So while she was gone for 20 minutes, I had to live with fingers glued together. That's never happened to any model builder, has it? So this is supposed to be a 10 to 15 second glue. And a gap filler. But I do have to be careful to hold that into place and not be too tall. And I don't like the Instaset for something like this, because that makes the super glue even more brittle than it normally is. Okay, John, thanks for joining us. Yeah, I use toothpicks for glue on a lot of cases too, but like in this case, I wanted it to come out like a caulking gun. Okay. And I think I'll put a little tack spot back here. where it doesn't show. I'm just going to hold that there for a few seconds. I like this styrene glue because it welds and really holds permanently, where super glues, you know, they they're brittle and they snap. Like you drop this model even an inch and your glue spots break apart. But it's also sets a lot quicker. Okay, so that's set up pretty quick. All right, so now I'm going to go back up front here and try to work that profile back into place. See, that came apart again up here. But I think some body filler will work. Better get my acetone close and ready. Yeah, I got tired of the styrene glue, so I did revert to super glue. I think what I'll do is once the super glue's kind of held it into place and cures into place, I can go back and like weld it from behind with the styrene glue. Like here, I'm a little bit worried that I'm too high in my profile here. All right, so I got to just hold that in place for a couple minutes. See you, Brian. Thanks for joining. Okay, that's been more than 10 or 15 seconds. Let go. You know, that is holding better. But I lost this here. Now I gotta fix that. All right, I'm gonna get a little glue in the joint, then I'm gonna squeeze it. But I see my glue joint in the back failed. "15 seconds feels like forever sometimes." Let's see, that's not wanting to stay. No, I do not have debond, or I think there's a homemade thing that you could do. I'm not sure. I think I've heard about that before. It's not the prettiest thing, but I think it's setting too high here. I gotta be careful of that. Well, it's kind of what I'm going for. Okay. Well, it isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but a little bit of body work or filler here, sanding, priming. We'll fix those two parts where it's most obvious. And now, and I'm going to finish tacking down and making sure that that profile holds. But then my plan is to take masking tape to make a template for the face profile of that. Get this body out of here. See, my plan will be, once that glue is set real good, just do something like this, and then maybe burnish that down a little bit. Or, you know what? There's that old trick with a pencil. Let me try a pencil here. Yeah. I can't remember what happened yesterday, but I can remember an old trick. Okay, so that's a template, and that's going to be a custom fit for each side. So there you go. That'll work. I can't believe how messy my desk gets in minutes. Okay, so styrene. All right. Too Tall, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Just a little impromptu build session here, unadvertised. So I'm working on inner wheel tubs for my engine compartment. So I'm just using my number 11 X-Acto blade. Over my masking tape template. And I'm just cutting over and over and over again. Sort of like if you were going to do a door opening, you just keep scribing until you can cut away. Now my paper's peeling. Yeah, not a bad idea for a template, huh? I probably should have made sure I finished my glue work on that before I made the template. Actually, this stuff is so thin. I should just be able to cut along here. Yeah, what was I thinking? Why am I doing it the hard way? I got to remember to make it a little big because you can always file back. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of finessing, but I think that works. And I'll get that all in there, and then I'll cut out where the suspension goes when I know where it goes, because it's tough to measure everything out. Yeah. All right, so now we got to glue that. I think that's a good solution. Okay, so let's see, how do I want to glue that in? I need to trim that bottom somewhat here. And just rough that one out for now. I'm not going to make that profile exact right now. Okay. That is too strong of a clamp. This might work. What if I tape it like a hinge here? Let me try that. Can't find my straight edge. I'm getting too messy here as I go on. This what happens to me. I keep pulling out new tools for each step along the way, and then next thing you know, I've got a cluttered mess and bury my tools. There it is. What I'm trying to do here is see if I can make a hinge here. It's either clamp it or tape it. Just enough to get the glue started. Yeah, it's close. Okay, and I can kind of hold it into place. So what do you think I should do? Styrene glue or super glue? Can actually get glue inside there. And glue bomb it to death on the back. me try that. Got a little access port right here. Okay. Give it 10 or 15 seconds. Oh, I'm probably going to have to trim that against the frame, but I can do that after the fact. I just don't want to cut away too much now. In fact, you know, I can see that if I just cut the profile that you see here, I'll be safe too. What I really want to do, guys, is I want to do paint and then sub this out to you guys to build. Who wants to do that for me? I'll do the paint, you do the assembly and the customizing. Okay, let's see how that's set up. I still need to get my hang around body filler on plastic too, though. I've used body filler on cars, real cars before, but this stuff that I use here, whether it's that 3M glaze stuff for cars or like the Tamiya putty, I really have trouble sanding that smooth. Maybe it's because I'm impatient. Just need shade a little bit there. All right, now I'll get a little glue out here. Try not to glue my finger to it. Yeah, Mike, that's my favorite. Seems like quite a few of us are. I would like to just, maybe that's what I need to do is just build a big body shop diorama and just paint bodies and then put them in my little diorama like they're on body rotisseries, and that's where I end it all. And then I can sell all my kits to other builders for kit bashing. There you go. Speaking of kit bashing, my friend Joe from Joe's new Rush Shop here in Youngstown, he has a YouTube channel. He's going to be one of my guests coming up too. But we went to lunch one day, him and Grandpa Mark and myself, and he brought this giant shopping bag for each of us because he does a lot of commission slot car builds. So he's not using the engines and chassis and a lot of the accessories and interior parts and stuff. He's usually mainly just the bodies. So he brought us these big bags of styrene with all the engines and suspension, you know, all the spare parts that won't go on the uh, slot car. And I tell you what, every time I'm trying to custom build something and I'm looking for something or I'm looking for, you know, an engine component or just, you know, power brake booster or something, I refer to his little kit bash bag, and it's nice instead of stealing from my kits. Well, I guess if I was talking about the applicator, not working really good with the bottle, but I guess if I'm patient with it, it does work. Now the trick is going to be to take that hack job and make it look decent. Be right back, folks. Ah, Joe's there. Hi, Joe. You heard me, huh? I still use that bag, buddy. We need to hook up for lunch, though. Give me a new supply. See you, Kevin. Thanks for joining us. All right. So, anyways, that was. I'm not done, but I think I'm gonna be wrapping it up here soon. But let's test fit it all together here. Okay, so now I'll have to just trim that bottom edge a little bit. But now my tires. Oh, I gotta be careful I didn't take away that profile. Hold on just a second here. I didn't take into consideration there that I'm taking a little bit of that real estate up. Doggone it, I kind of forgot about that. Was the whole purpose I cut away the other fender well, so I want that tire to be buried up there a little further, so not much, but I could actually grind a little bit of that away. Like that's a little bit better, because the back ones really fit up there, you know, really slammed look there, and I want the fronts to look slammed too. I don't want that front standing up on me. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to trim this a little bit here. So I can show you what I got and see if everything still fits together nice. I know some of you guys fab a lot more than I do, and you're probably laughing at me learning through my process, but that's the cool part about my YouTube followership. You guys are all right. Social media like Facebook, though, they hack you pretty bad. People really, the keyboard warriors on Facebook groups and stuff like that, poor guys go in there with the question and they get hammered, and I don't know why they do that, but I find YouTube isn't quite that bad. Okay. All right, I still have to trim that frame away a little bit here. Anyways, front wheel, back wheel. Okay, I like the way the back one is slammed. Now the front wheels I had perfectly, but once I started putting the wheel wells in, they are kind of tilting inward and down, so they're hogging up the real estate once again where the tire is. But I'll be honest, I think I'm going to just trim the top of that tire. And then as far as the inner wheel tubs, you know, I think that's going to look okay. You know, once I get my engine in there and everything and do some body work and then do it all painted up there. Anyways, folks, I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Appreciate you hanging out with me while I'm doing this, and some of the advice you gave me along the way was good, but I've got a lot of work here to do now to finish that. I'm going to have to sand and fill and file and get that right. But appreciate you all watching. Not sure when I'm going to sign on again with an impromptu like this, because it is kind of fun to do. But for sure, next Friday night at 7 o'clock, I will have a live stream. And also, I'm working on a Fusion Firm airbrush ready paint video. They asked me to do a review. They sent me this sample and asked me to review it. So I'm working on that. Right now, it's all been sprayed, but I'm waiting for 3 days for the recommended cure time, because I want to do durability testing too. So thank you very much again, everybody. Appreciate you watching, and I'm going to go ahead and sign out.